You think you know all those everyday facts. Bad news, your brain is saving them in a folder called Confidently Wrong. From the whole drink 8 glasses of water thing to lightning never strikes twice, we have been passing myths around like Wi-Fi passwords. Today I am not here to debate, I am here to snap them in half. Each case goes like this: drop the myth, hit you with the real fact, then finish with a punchline so you laugh and feel slightly called out. If your ego is paper thin, set it down, breathe, and keep watching. By the end, you will have 30 fresh facts to correct an entire room. And do not worry, everyone falls for a few. The difference is now you will know exactly which ones got you. 1. You have probably heard humans only use 10% of their brains, and suddenly you felt relief like you just got a license to procrastinate. Now every mistake has a scientific excuse. Lost your keys because you have not unlocked your potential. Scrolled for 3 hours because you were conserving neurons. It sounds comforting, but science is not buying it. Your brain is not a 10-room house where only one room has electricity. Different regions are working constantly when you talk, when you walk, when you cook noodles, and when you somehow have time to worry about other people's lives. You do not use everything at once, because if you did, you would overheat like a laptop running 50 tabs. There is no free turbo button, just good habits and practice. The real problem is not missing 90%. It is missing sleep discipline and the ability to put your phone out of reach. If humans truly used only 10%, online arguments would be running on 1% and still burning more energy than a full workout. So next time, do not say, "I am not using my whole brain." Say, "I need to use it in the right place." 2. You watch a goldfish swim in circles and assume it lives in permanent forget mode, turns around and instantly wipes its memory. That is how the 3-second goldfish myth was born. It is neat, it is catchy, and it is wrong. Goldfish can remember far longer than you think. They can learn routines, recognize cues, and remember where food shows up over long periods. Tap the tank lightly every time you feed it, and after a while it will swim over before you even open the lid. It can also tell who the feeder is and who just stands there filming and leaves. And trust me, that difference comes with attitude. The real issue is its world is painfully repetitive. Same tank, same rocks, same plastic plant every single day, so its swimming looks like a loop. Lock a human in a white room and they will pace too. So do not use goldfish as your excuse for being forgetful. It remembers long enough to side-eye you and long enough to judge you when you forget to feed it. 3. The idea that you swallow 8 spiders a year in your sleep is the kind of internet legend designed to ruin innocent people's bedtime. It spreads fast because it is gross and easy to repost in a midnight group chat. But it is a hoax, not science. Spiders do not have a hobby of parachuting into a snoring mouth. You exhale like a fan, you toss like a washing machine, and you have reflexes that make you swallow or cough when something is off. To a spider, your mouth is an amusement park full of lethal traps. They prefer quiet, low vibration, and most importantly, staying alive long enough for their next meal. If a spider is in your room, it will look for a corner under a cabinet or anywhere bugs actually are not the warm, wet mouth making engine noises. So if you wake up with a dry throat, what you swallowed most is saliva and the random worries you carried to bed. And if someone insists it is true, ask for the source. It is usually an anonymous post and a friend of a friend. Very scientific, obviously. 4. Saying you can see the Great Wall of China from space sounds impressive, like the ultimate fun fact to end an argument. But reality does not follow that script. The wall is long, yes, but it is narrow, and its color blends into the landscape, so from orbit it does not pop like a bold line on a map. Many astronauts have said seeing it with the naked eye is difficult, sometimes impossible, because it depends on weather, lighting, viewing angle, and what you are even looking at among all the details on Earth. What tends to stand out more are cities at night, big highways, airports, or deserts, and ice fields with strong contrast. In other words, if you want certainty, use satellite images, not your eyeballs, as a zoom lens. And if someone still swears they saw it clearly, just nod and ask if they could also see the neighbor's driveway. If they still say yes, then you know exactly where the problem is. 5. Someone travels abroad and comes back acting like they discovered a new law of physics. On this hemisphere, the toilet flush spins clockwise. On the other, it goes the opposite way. Suddenly, everyone wants to book a flight just to test a bathroom. But toilets do not care where you stand on the globe. The swirl direction depends on the bowl shape, the jet placement, the slope of the sides, and the flush force. The Coriolis effect is real, but it matters for huge systems like hurricanes and ocean currents, not for a household toilet. The universe is busy spinning storms. It is not micromanaging your bathroom. If you want the swirl to change, switch the toilet design or the flush style. No need to switch hemispheres. And if someone still argues, tell them to do a real test. Fill a round basin, let the water sit completely still for a long time, then pull the plug in the center. Most of the time the result is still caused by the tiny swirl you created while pouring. Physics is not romantic like the movies. 6. Picture this. You are a Viking warrior charging into a raid wind in your face, heart pounding, and on your head are 2 giant horns the size of bicycle handles. It looks awesome. It looks cinematic. It is also wildly impractical. Real Vikings did not wear horned helmets into battle. There is no solid archaeological evidence that horns were part of their combat gear. The horned helmet image mainly blew up in the 19th century thanks to theater and opera costumes, because on stage it reads as instantly epic. In real fighting, horns would be a disaster. They snag on ropes' doorways and low beams, and they basically turn your head into a convenient handle for your enemy to grab and yank. Imagine trying to raid a ship and getting your aura deleted because your horn hooked a doorway before you even finished yelling. Also, Vikings were not the filthy mud monsters pop culture loves. Many bathed regularly and carried grooming tools like combs and razors. They wanted to survive, go home, and show off their loot, not wear a trap on their skull. So when you see a horned helmet treated as cosplay, a real Viking would look at it, sigh, and walk away. 7. History has a weird hobby. You can conquer half of Europe, redraw maps, keep an entire continent awake at night, and people will still roast your height. Napoleon got labeled as short, like he needed a step stool to reach the throne. But he was not unusually short. By the standards of his time, he was around average, or even slightly above average for Frenchmen. The confusion came from unit conversions and a whole lot of mocking propaganda because nothing spreads faster than a good insult. So an emperor turned into a meme. And the funniest part is, we even invented the phrase Napoleon complex to describe short people with big attitudes like personality comes with a measuring tape. Honestly, if an entire continent kept calling you the wrong thing, you would be irritated too. So next time someone says Napoleon was short, tell them he was not short. History was just playing dirty. Conquer half of Europe and still lose to the caption. Brutal. 8. Have you ever gotten a math grade so bad you looked at the test and your soul temporarily left your body? In that moment, the story that Einstein failed math feels like emotional life support. See, even geniuses struggled like me. It feels great, but it is wrong. Einstein was doing advanced math early, and by around age 12, he was already working with calculus. He was not some dreamy genius who stumbled into formulas by accident. He worked like crazy, reading, calculating, revising, doing it again with more discipline than people who post about discipline. The myth probably came from mismatched grading systems or mistranslations, then got recycled as a motivational story. It survives because it makes us feel less terrible about yesterday's algebra, like a thin blanket that still feels warm. But the truth is blunt. Einstein was actually good at math. The good news is you do not need to be Einstein to live well. You just need to stop using fake stories as a reason to dodge practice. That myth was invented to rescue our math grades, but grades still do not rise unless you do the work. 9. You know that tongue map they taught in school where the tip is sweet, the sides are salty and sour, and bitter lives way in the back like an unapproachable boss. It looks tidy like a perfect city plan. But your tongue is not a zoning map. In reality, taste receptors are spread across the tongue, and you can detect sweet, sour, salty, and bitter in many areas with only small differences in sensitivity. That famous diagram came from a flawed interpretation that got repeated for generations, like a classroom legend that outlives the actual test. If you want to prove it, put a drop of sugar water on the side of your tongue. Still sweet. Put a little lemon near the tip. Still sour. Your tongue is not playing territorial monopoly, it is teamwork. And here is another twist. Smell is the real boss. When your nose is blocked, food suddenly tastes dull, like a conversation with no Wi-Fi. So next time someone quotes the tongue map, just smile. They're looking at an outdated chart while your tongue is doing modern science. 10. In every office, there are 2 kinds of people. The quiet typers and the ones who crack their knuckles like they are making popcorn. And there's always a third person who looks over like a judge and says, keep doing that and you will get arthritis. Bad news for the warning. That cracking sound is not your joints filing for retirement. It is usually gas bubbles forming and popping in the joint fluid, basically a soda can opening, but for your fingers. Long-term studies have not shown that knuckle cracking directly causes arthritis for most people. What it can cause is everyone around you losing patience. And if you do it aggressively, you might strain something and feel temporary pain like you overdid it for the performance. If you want to take care of your joints, move regularly. Keep the muscles around them strong and do not sit frozen like a statue all day. Joints like smart movement, not sound effects. So relax, cracking your knuckles will not turn you into a grandparent overnight. It will just damage workplace relationships, especially if you do it in a dead silent meeting room. 11. There is a rumor that makes kids chew gum while secretly panicking, because if you accidentally swallow it, congrats, you just signed a 7-year lease with your stomach. It sounds like a low-budget horror movie, but your body does not run like a lost and found warehouse. Gum is hard to digest because the gum base is not fully broken down by your enzymes, but it does not move in and start a career in your belly. Your stomach and intestines still push it along with everything else, and it exits the same way other things do, just in a slightly awkward, not very elegant manner. If you swallow one piece, your body handles it like a normal day at the office. The only time it can become a problem is if someone swallows a lot of gum repeatedly, especially small kids, which can rarely cause a blockage like overstuffing a pipe. So do not be terrified. The scarier thing is confidently repeating the myth at dinner while science stands in the corner sighing. Gum is not a 7-year rental contract in your stomach. It just stops by, then leaves no forwarding address and definitely no rent. 12. You see a baby bird on the ground, your heart melts. You reach to help and someone screams, "Do not touch it." The parents will smell humans on it and abandon it. It sounds like a detective movie where birds are elite scent tracking agents, but most birds do not have a strong sense of smell like you think. Many species rely more on sight and sound, so the touch it and it gets abandoned story usually does not play out like the legend. In reality, parents abandon nests mainly because the nest is destroyed, danger keeps happening, or the chick was already weak not because you left a human fingerprint on it. That said, it does not mean you should take the bird home like a pet rescue mission. The best move is to place it back near the nest if you can find it, or set it somewhere safe and elevated close by so the parents can locate it, then step back and watch. If it is clearly injured, contact a local wildlife rescue. Bottom line, they're not smelling humans like it is a crime scene. They just need you to not turn a good deed into an accidental kidnapping. 13. Have you ever seen someone dodge responsibility and get called an ostrich with its head in the sand? It is funny because it sounds insanely stupid, like danger shows up and the ostrich just shuts its eyes and pretends reality is gone. But real ostriches do not do that. They're not dumb enough to bury their heads in sand and wait for fate. When they feel threatened, they often lower their bodies, lie flat, and stretch their necks along the ground to blend into dry grass, so from far away they can look like a random mound. And when it is time to move, they run fast and kick hard. They do not stand there playing statue. The misunderstanding probably comes from seeing them dip their heads to eat or tend eggs, which from a distance can look like head burying. Humans added drama, and the metaphor survived for centuries. If they actually buried their heads, they would basically suffocate because sand is not air. So next time someone calls you an ostrich, you can clap back politely. Ostriches do not hide in a goofy way. They use camouflage and speed. And if you're avoiding a problem, at least avoid it with some technique. 14. The phrase blind as a bat is so dramatic, like bats are just flying face first into walls because they cannot see anything. But many bats can see fine and some see pretty well in low light. They have eyes retinas and can detect shapes and motion. They just also have an extra superpower echolocation. Bats send out high-frequency sounds and listen to the echoes to build a map of what is around them. It is like walking through fog with a radar turned on safe and in control. And because that skill is so impressive, people assumed bats must be blind to need it. The truth is, they use it to hunt at night, avoid obstacles, and navigate dark caves with insane precision. If bats were truly blind, they would not be able to skim past thin branches or snatch insects mid-air like they are playing a game on hard mode. So blind as a bat is basically defamation. A bat would hear it and file a complaint because it is being accused twice of being blind and of flying like an idiot. Next time you need a blindness metaphor, leave bats out of it. 15. Someone tells a childhood horror story. Walking through a park at night, bats swooping around and one rockets straight into their hair like a plane landing on the wrong runway. Now the fear gets passed down like family lore, and every time people hear bats, they cover their heads like they are putting on a helmet. But bats are not trying to turn your hair into a parking lot. They fly using echolocation, sending out sound and reading the echoes to detect obstacles, including something as thin as a strand of hair. Also, bats are hunting insects. Their target is a mosquito drifting by not your hairspray. If a bat flies close to you, it is often because a mosquito just buzzed near your ear, and the bat is basically providing free pest control. You think it is chasing you. It is chasing what you hate. And bats are not stupid enough to slam into a moving scented hair cloud. If there is a rare brush by, it is usually a freak accident, like you happened to stand right in its flight path while it was dodging something else. Bottom line, your hair is not a bat runway, and bats are not taking appointments for hairstyling. If you're still nervous, turn on a light and do not stand frozen at the entrance of a dark cave like you are auditioning for a horror movie. 16. You have watched a bullfight and wondered why the bull loses its mind at the sight of a red cup, and people immediately go, "Bulls hate the color red," like the animal has strong fashion opinions and just got personally offended. But bulls do not hate red. Their color vision does not separate red and green the way ours does, so that cape is not some magical rage trigger. What actually sets them off is movement. The matador is waving, flicking, and dodging, creating a big, obvious target right in the bull's face. Add the noise, the pressure, and the chaos of the arena, and yeah, the bull is reacting to provocation, not to a paint swatch. In other words, if you stood there and waved a blue cape, a white cape, or honestly a raincoat, the bull could still charge. If someone shoves anything in your face aggressively, you would get mad too. Bulls are just doing boundaries loudly. And here's the real-life lesson. Arguments work the same way. The color does not matter as much as how hard you wave it. The more you fling the cape, the more people run straight into it. 17. Everyone loves the line, "Lightning never strikes the same place twice," especially after something goes wrong, because it sounds like motivational advice with a weather theme. But the sky does not read self-help books, and it definitely does not care that you are rebuilding confidence. In real life, lightning hits the same places all the time, especially tall objects, because those are the easiest paths for electricity to reach the ground. Trees, power poles, radio towers, skyscrapers, they are basically giant neon signs that say, "Hit here." Some structures get struck repeatedly during the same storm, and buildings with good lightning protection and grounding can become the safest meeting point for the current. So if you are standing next to the lone tall tree in an open field, telling yourself, "Relax, it will not happen twice," you're choosing poetry over physics. The smart advice is, get indoors, avoid tall objects and metal, and do not be the tallest thing in the area. The quote is cute. The weather does not have a like button. 18. Movies always show lightning like a spear from the sky, dramatic flash character jumps, hair stands up, and scene. But in real life, some lightning goes the other way, from the ground up to the sky. It can start as small upward leaders rising from tall objects like towers, buildings, even trees, and then connect with the downward charge from the cloud to complete the strike. Think of two people running toward each other to shake hands, except this handshake can scorch everything it touches. Upward lightning is especially common around very tall structures, because they help the upward path form. That does not mean the ground randomly decides to attack the sky. It means the electric field in a storm gets strong enough to pull charges into the fight. So do not stand on a rooftop watching the rain like lightning only comes from above. Nature loves a plot twist, and you do not want a cameo in that scene. 19. People talk about the dark side of the moon like half of it lives in permanent darkness, the forbidden neighborhood of space. It sounds mysterious, it sounds great for music, and yes, Pink Floyd made art, not astronomy. The truth is, the moon rotates in a way that is almost synchronized with its orbit around Earth, so one side always faces us. That is why we call the other side the far side, and somewhere along the way, people turned far side into dark side. But both sides get sunlight over the moon's day-night cycle. When you see a full moon, the face toward Earth is mostly lit. When you see a crescent, the rest is still illuminated, you just are not viewing it from that angle. If you stood on the far side, you would still get sunrises and sunsets, you just would not see Earth hanging in your sky. So no, there's not a permanently black half full of secrets, just craters and rocks in the same silence. The real mystery is why humans label everything they cannot see as dark. 20. There is a fancy-sounding claim that glass is actually a liquid that flows extremely slowly, which is why old windows look thicker at the bottom, because the glass has been oozing down for centuries like honey. It sounds scientific, and it even seems to explain what you can see, so it sticks. But it is wrong. At room temperature, glass is an amorphous solid. The atoms are locked into a rigid structure, not a liquid that can drip downward over time. If glass really flowed like that, bottles would sag, car windows would warp, and your drinking glass would eventually turn into a plate. Nobody lives in that world. Old windows are uneven because of how glass used to be made, blown, drawn, or rolled, which created inconsistent thickness. Installers often put the thicker edge at the bottom for stability and to reduce breakage, so it looks like the glass took a slow walk down the frame. So do not call glass a lazy liquid. If you want to watch something truly flow slowly, watch honey in your pantry, or watch time move when you're stuck waiting for a video to load on bad Wi-Fi. 21. You think bananas grow on a real tree like coconuts or mangoes because the banana plant is tall and looks like it means business. But botanically, bananas grow on a giant herb. That thing you call a trunk is basically tightly wrapped leaf sheaths stacked up like a huge roll of paper standing upright. So a banana grove is not a forest, it is more like a gym for plants, a lineup of leafy bodybuilders pretending to be wood. The plant produces a heavy bunch, then the mother plant finishes its shift and slowly dies back while a new shoot takes over like a company that runs on rotating staff. It is a production line, not an ancient tree. And the funniest part is the so-called trunk is just leaves acting like the main character. If you ever drank a banana smoothie to feel healthy, congratulations, you just chugged a blended herb. It sounds like a fancy spa drink, but it is really bananas ice and pure confidence. Next time someone brags about eating more greens, you can say, "Same, I drank my greens this morning. Banana greens spiritually very green." 22. You spread peanut butter on toast and proudly call yourself a nut person like you are following an athlete meal plan. But peanuts are not nuts in the true senses. They are legumes relatives of peas and lentils. And peanut plants are weird in the best way. They flower above the ground, then the flower stem drills down into the soil to form the pods, meaning the peanuts develop underground instead of hanging from branches. Basically, it is a bean that buries its own treasure and makes you dig it up. We call it a nut out of convenience, and the whole world just nodded along. This also matters for allergies, because a peanut allergy does not always line up with tree nut allergies. But for comedy, if you love peanuts, you are not a nut lover. You are a bean enthusiast, like a member of a secret club that only discusses legumes. From now on, when you eat peanut butter, remember you are eating a bean with magic tricks. It grows underground, then climbs straight onto your bread. 23. You leave a restaurant crack open. A tiny cookie read the slip inside and smile like you just received wisdom from an ancient Chinese elder. But here is the awkward truth. Fortune cookies are not an ancient Chinese tradition. They became popular in the United States, especially connected to Chinese-style restaurants in California in the early 20th century. It is more of a cultural prop than a family heirloom. People role-play so hard they assume it has been around for 1,000 years. The idea of hidden messages in treats has shown up in parts of Asia, sure, but the crisp, sweet cookie with a short little prophecy you get after dinner is very American, powered by marketing and the love of ending a meal with something that sounds deep. And those messages are often hilarious. You'll get something like you're about to take an exciting trip while you're literally just walking to your car. Its authenticity is about on the level of pineapple on pizza. Still edible, still fun, just do not call it original tradition. Next time you get one, treat it like a sugar tweet, read it, laugh, forget it, or save it to mess with your friends. 24. There is a special kind of person who gets instantly defensive. The one holding a morning coffee when someone says coffee dehydrates you. You drink it and you get thirstier. At that point, they are ready to debate like you insulted their entire bloodline. The truth is, caffeine can have a mild diuretic effect, but coffee is mostly water, so overall it still contributes to your fluid intake. If you drink it in moderation, your body adapts and you do not turn into a desert because of one Americano. Of course, if you drink a ridiculous amount and your heart is pounding and your hands are shaking like you're holding a microphone, the problem is not hydration anymore. But saying coffee dehydrates you in an absolute way is an exaggeration. It is like claiming soup makes you thirsty because it has salt. What matters is your total fluids, your portions, and your body. So yes, enjoy your coffee. Just remember to drink some plain water during the day like a functional human. Mess with coffee and you mess with world peace, because a lot of people are polite only because caffeine is holding society together. 25. There was a time when just saying MSG at the table changed the atmosphere like you had just summoned a supervillain. People would swear it gives headaches, flushing neck, tingles a racing heart, and then conclude it is some hidden toxin nobody wants to admit. But the whole Chinese restaurant syndrome story is mostly built on anecdote and got inflated over time. MSG is simply a salt of glutamate, an amino acid that naturally shows up in foods like tomatoes, cheese, mushrooms, fish sauce, and soy sauce. In other words, you have been living with glutamate your whole life. It only becomes suspicious when it stands alone under the name MSG. Some people can be sensitive in certain situations, just like with many other ingredients, but turning it into a universal villain is too much. And there is also the cultural layer, because fear around MSG has been tied to bias and marketing, which helped it spread. MSG is the scapegoat that got a label because of hype and rumors. If you eat something with MSG and feel off, look at the entire meal. Maybe it was too salty, too much, too fast, plus you were sleep deprived, not because a pinch of seasoning is plotting against your life. 26. You have seen this scene. A kid takes one bite of cake and suddenly starts sprinting around the room like they just unlocked turbo mode, and immediately someone points and declares it is the sugar. Sugar becomes the prime suspect in every case of screaming chair climbing and sofa parkour. But research does not really support the idea that sugar automatically turns kids into tiny superheroes. What usually lights them up is the situation. A birthday party, loud music, friends, gifts, adults laughing, pure chaos energy in the air. And there is another layer. When adults already believe sugar causes hyperactivity, they watch harder and remember the exact moments kids go wild after sweets but ignore all the calm moments. Expectation is stronger than the frosting. This does not mean kids should eat candy non-stop, because too much sugar is still not great for teeth and health. But blaming sugar for everything is unfair to the cake. It is not the cake, it is the birthday. And if you want a real tip, lower the adult drama. Sometimes the kid is hyper because the entire room was hyper first. 27. There's this unofficial rule taught like school policy that you must drink exactly 8 glasses of water a day, and if you do not, your body will throw an error like a phone on 1% battery. So people turn hydration into a sport, waking up and chugging water like they are training to cross a desert. But 8 glasses is not a universal commandment. Your body gets water from many places: plain water, tea soup, milk, fruit, vegetables, even rice has moisture. You're not living in dry air. You're living in a world full of liquids and watery foods. How much you need depends on weather, activity, body size, diet, and even how much coffee you drink. The simpler method is listen to your body. Drink when you are thirsty. Drink more when your urine is dark. Drink more when you sweat. And remember, overdoing it is not a medal either. You can dilute electrolytes and actually feel worse. You do not need to train for the desert. You just need steady, sensible hydration and to stop punishing yourself for a number that sounds neat. 28. It is cold outside. Someone hands you a drink and says this will warm you right up like they are sharing a survival hack. You drink it and you do feel warm. Cheeks flush. Hands feel better like your internal heater just turned on. But it is a trick. Alcohol dilates the blood vessels near your skin, so warm, blood rushes outward and you feel heat fast. The problem is you then lose heat to the environment faster, like opening the windows while the AC is running. Your core temperature can drop while you are sitting there thinking you are fine. That is why using alcohol to stay warm can backfire, especially if you are outside for a while. It also lowers judgment, so you get colder faster and make worse decisions, a combo nobody ordered. You feel warm, but your body is basically running a clearance sale on heat. If you want real warmth, layer up, stay dry, eat enough, and block the wind. Save the drink for inside, not as an outdoor jacket. 29. There's a scary-sounding city legend that if you drop a penny from the top of a skyscraper like the Empire State Building, it will fall like a bullet and delete someone instantly. It sounds perfect for an action movie because movies love turning small objects into weapons of mass destruction. But real life refuses the script. Air resistance slows the coin down, and it cannot accelerate forever like your imagination wants. It hits a terminal speed, wobbles, tumbles, sometimes turns sideways, losing even more energy. So if it hits someone, it could hurt, it could bruise, it could make them swear in 3 languages, but the chance of a literal game over is extremely low. The real danger from above is heavier objects with stable fall patterns, bottles, tools, anything that drops like a solid heavy chunk. So do not fear the penny as a bullet. Fear the person who thinks dropping things off buildings is fun. It might hurt, but it is not game over, like in the movies. And please do not test it. Science does not need you auditioning as the villain. 30. You see pigeons in a public square and instantly label them dumb, just waddling around waiting for someone to drop breadcrumbs. But pigeons are not as stupid as their meme or reputation. They can learn and remember well-recognized faces, navigate home from long distances, and perform surprisingly well on visual discrimination tasks and experiments. Some research has even shown they can be trained to tell the difference between the painting styles of different artists, basically bird art critics who do not write reviews. They can also count and recognize patterns to a degree that will make you feel a little embarrassed for calling them useless. Pigeons get a bad image because they live near humans, eat almost anything, and show up in public places looking a bit messy, not elegant like a peacock. But intelligence does not need a fancy outfit. So next time you call someone a bird brain, be careful. A pigeon might be outsmarting you while flying away with more confidence than you have about your own direction in life. And there you go. How many of these did you believe so hard you could not even raise your hand fast enough? Now it is your turn to confess. Which myth got you the most, and which one shocked you the most? Drop it in the comments so we can all laugh and get humbled together. And tell me one so-called fact you used to say with full confidence before you realized you were wrong. The more ridiculous, the better. If you want more myth-busting like this, quick, sharp, and a little savage, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you do not miss the next one. Leave a like to keep the algorithm happy, and you will walk away with fresh ammo to casually correct your friends. See you in the next video.